Don't cut. Change result. Is no restart.
Big move in Bitcoin then, in contrast to all the notes I wrote pre-show, which were telling me that this was going to put Bitcoin under pressure.
The narrative that perhaps this launch of these political meme coins will sap flows from Bitcoin is showing us that it's really not the case this morning. If anything, it's just accelerated the momentum and the excitement around cryptocurrency under another Trump administration.
Hi, Dewald. What is all this FOMO about? Should I buy Bitcoin now?
Are you smoking your socks? You should rather watch my show. You should rather watch my show.
All right, legends. Happy Friday. It is Friday, getting ready for the weekend. I'm sure you guys are making plans or no plans. Maybe you just want to snuggle in bed next to a campfire, read a book, watch a movie, or go party out. Maybe you're an extrovert. You like to be surrounded by people and be the center of attention, right? Whatever tickles your fancy. But please, as always, take a break from the charts on Saturdays, right? Usually on Saturdays, very boring price action. Last week, Sunday, we had some volatile price action. And yeah, I am. Let's do some technical analysis. Legends, it has been very, 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 very boring price action. And this little choppy range here to the upside. And now we're getting the choppiness here to the downside. For me personally, as a trader, this is very boring price action to trade. Unless you dive into the smaller time frames like the 3-minute, 5-minute time frame, you play the breakouts to the upside, you play the breakdowns to the downside. Okay, it's not really a zone that I like to trade. When price does this, I do other things. I go to gym, I do the dishes, okay, do my trading course. I've got lots of other things to keep myself busy with, but I'm not a trader that likes to trade this. So I've also been a little bit more quiet inside of our Legends Pro community. It's just it's just choppy, guys. I mean, you know, on the smaller time frames, beautiful, okay? Beautiful. If you go onto the 5-minute time frame, in hindsight, if you look at the structure, right, look at all the breakouts. You could have had so much fun playing all the breakouts. This is something that I used to do but not anymore. Okay, I just don't like to trade it anymore, but it's still fun to trade them breakout after breakout after breakout. Okay, you guys can see there was just breakout after breakout, and there was a nice little mini breakout over there, right? It's just, in hindsight, there was many breakouts that you could have played here to the upside until the trend starts reversing and you get stopped out. Okay, because I think the last one that I highlighted to the Legends Pro community, I think, was this one. I think so, right? If I can remember correctly, it was this one. I said, guys, well, all we can do is, you know, if you want to scalp the smaller time frames, all you can do is play the little breakout. So it did break out, but it did not claim the high, right? But the legends know, you know, you protect position, you take profits, you take your FIP from the high to the low. Okay, you take profits at the 618786, which is actually where it got rejected, at the 786 to perfection, got the rejection. Okay, so I mean, if you didn't take profits to the upside, so be it. But I mean, there was a lot of breakouts that you could have scalped here on the smaller time frame. It's just not my cup of tea anymore. Okay, I have a larger account and I don't have to trade every single trade. I don't have to force trades. Right, in the beginning, when I was still building up my portfolio, I took advantage of every single opportunity I could get my hands on, okay, including the smaller time frames over here. Right, legends, now, okay, we need to discuss a couple of probabilities. What can we expect? What are the levels to the upside? What are the levels to the downside? And for now, if I go back here onto the 1 hour time frame, you can see I've got some alarms set over here. I've got an alarm at 104. I've got another alarm at 108 and another one at 100 and let's say 5. Okay, it's just to warn me so that I can sit in front of the computer and pay attention. It's not the exact levels that I'm watching, but it's to enable me to have everything ready by the time it hits the level. And for now, my levels are not hit. So what do? Nothing. I sit on my hands. I do other things. Okay, I get some admin out of the way. We all know how we like emails. Okay, you get some emails done. You read a book. You upskill your knowledge. You develop a new trading strategy. You backtest a new trading strategy. You use the time to do other things. Well, at least me. Right, let me say hi to the community. A nice little relaxed live stream here on a Friday. Everyone getting ready for the weekend. For now, okay, based on the price action that I see here, before I continue into the detailed technical analysis, it looks like price wants to come down a little bit more before we can talk about going up. Right, but I do have my levels to the upside that I'm going to be paying attention to, and I do have my levels to the downside where I'm going to be paying attention to. I'm looking for some important levels where I want to short from, or look for a short, and where I want to long from. Okay, and we will discuss those levels at the moment. But for now, based on what I'm seeing, local berry CVD building up with every bounce that we're getting here to the upside, it looks like price for now is rolling over. Okay, and I can just imagine that there's a pool of liquidity over here that is ready for the picking, but I do know that there is a liquidity pool to the upside as well. If the market makers are planning to grab this liquidity, it would make sense, okay, from a psychology perspective, to send price down first so that more liquidity builds up, more shorts starts to enter, then you go grab it, right? So just want to throw that in from a psychology perspective. Okay, let me say hi to the community. Good morning, Dewald and all. Welcome to the live stream, Steph Haven, everything. Mr. Jack in the house, always glad to see the moderators. Yep, I was also wondering what happened. What happened? Stefan, no man, I didn't do anything. I don't know why. Okay, you guys are having a conversation here with each other. No one can beat this guy, TA. I don't know if I'm better than Andy. I would say Andy is way better than me. Okay, myself and Andy always have that little bit of a debate amongst ourselves. No, Andy, you know, no, Dewald, you know, no, like, you know, myself and Andy just like to stay humble because you never know everything. Okay, I get stopped out many times out of trades. But the one thing that I can tell you guys is that myself and Andy, maybe between the two of us we know everything, but not independently. But what I can tell you guys is that we do not burn accounts. we know how to practice good risk management. I can be stopped out 4 times and win 1 trade and still make my money back out of the 3 or 4 times that I've been stopped out. So something that I've learned is that even when you are wrong, how good can you be wrong? Okay, very important lesson that you need to learn in trading. Right, let me see who else is here. Hey boss, welcome to the live stream. He's here. Likes needs a slap. Yes, it would be so nice if you can just gently tap that like button if you haven't done so already. And then we will dive here into the technical analysis. Olivier, hi legends and mentor. Welcome here to the live stream. Appreciate you all being here, sacrificing your Friday, whatever you are doing, to come and watch me do basic technical analysis here on the price of Bitcoin. Hi Dewald and legends. Reza, welcome to the live stream. Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts. Legends, I'm just going to keep it very simple here today. Okay, well, as simple as I possibly can. I don't have a lot of time for this live stream, so I want to make it count. Be brief, be bright, be gone. Okay, so I want to leave you with something. So based on, we are here on the higher time frame. So something that I like to do is just to make sure, well, do I have my levels marked out? Okay, just make sure you have your levels marked out. Just want to make sure, do I have all my daily levels marked out? Switch on my daily levels. Oof, there was a daily level here yesterday where we actually got the rejection. Can you guys see that we got a rejection from a daily level? These levels, guys, are powerful. I missed that one completely. You see, that's why you have to make sure that you check your levels every single day. Right? We got rejected at a daily level at the moment. And for now, that's a successful rejection. Okay. So I'm just going to snap it on there for a magnet so that I know that it's still resistance here to the upside. Okay, there's a daily level where we got rejected. Okay, valid daily, valid daily, valid daily, nothing in between. Okay, so that looks good, right? I want to make sure that I have all my point of controls marked out. I like to use the 1 hour time frame for that. So session volume profile, here we go. Switch that on. I know I did check that this morning. I know I checked my session volume profile. I know I've got all my levels marked out. So let's see if there's anything that I'm missing. So just by spotting it, I can see that there's a, let me just switch the magnet off. There's a point of control that has not been tapped. There's a point of control that has not been tapped, and that one has been tapped. So not valid. So I switch on my point of controls. Right, I do have the levels. Oh, and there's another one. Okay, there's another point of control that has not been tapped. So I've got my levels marked out. Point of control, point of control, point of control. And a little bit further up, point of control. Okay, so I have my levels to the upside. I have my levels to the downside. Right. Always want to make sure that I've got everything marked out, okay, before I start my technical analysis. Then I can switch this off, and then I can start looking at a little bit of higher time frame. Well, where are we from a structural perspective? Okay, so I just quickly want to run through this scenario over here. WXY, well, there's a potential that the low is in. We are, for now, this looks like a 5-wave structure. So once you have a low, okay, and you form a 5-wave structure, things becomes very interesting. So for now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It does look like a 5-wave structure here at the moment. From the high, we now need a corrective structure and potentially continuation to the upside. Okay, now the question is, where are we going to get the bounce, and how deep is the correction going to go? Because the maximum target for this correction is the 0.786. So when you take a fib from the low to the high, okay, now I have my Fibonacci levels marked out. This, from a technical perspective, looks like a 5-wave structure. Okay, there's our 5-wave structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the upside. Okay, legends, that's what I'm saying. Technical analysis can be wrong at times, but when you attempt those longs or shorts, you just make sure you do it with good risk management. And you know where to take profits, obviously. Okay, so it looks like a damn 5-wave structure at the moment here to the upside. Now from a timing perspective, okay, because I go through everything, the structure is telling me that it could potentially still correct here to the downside, because for now it looks like a completed 5-wave structure where the high was made at $108,000, 252. Might be a little bit different depending on which exchange you use to trade on. And now I want to see from a timing perspective. Well, if I take a time fib from the low to the high, okay, you guys know the deal. Okay, is it time yet Okay, can the low be in and we continue momentum here to the upside? Well, based on this scenario that I'm now looking at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if the high was made over here, then no, this low was made before the minimum requirement, which means that I would like to see the corrective structure still continue to finish in this zone before I will consider a long. So can this be the low? Low probability. Okay. Right, unless this is A, B flat, C, and this is all still part of your corrective structure like what happened over there, right, legends? And this is why I have my levels to the upside, because you just never know what type of structure you're going to get. Okay, so from a simplicity perspective, without trying to confuse the entire situation over here, I would like the low, okay, the low to be made here, not before. So if this is the end of the structure, this low was made before my minimum requirement, which means I sit on my hands, I do nothing. I want price to come down lower, okay, or at least be longer in time. Right, because you can get a sideways corrective structure that does not go deep. You can get a sideways corrective structure, and then from a timing perspective, it just continues to the upside. So you can see from a timing perspective, not time yet. Okay, I know that some people were talking, and including myself, to the Legends Pro community to say that, well, what if price? Because while price was chopping here to the upside, okay, there was that little debate of, well, what if this is a 1-2, 1-2, and we're just going to absolutely fly in a double 1-2 combo? Well, the probability for that scenario has significantly gone down the toilet because of this. Because after a double 1-2, what do you want to see? You want to see a rocket. You want to see an aggressive third wave to the upside, supported with massive amount of green volume. We didn't get it. Price just chopped and started turning around. So a 1-2, 1-2, and we're absolutely just going to fly here to the upside, for me carries very low probability. Okay, which leads me to believe that this is the end of the structure, and now we're starting to roll over, supported by local bearish CVD. As you can see, CVD is extremely bearish at the moment. Every time you get a little bounce to the upside, you form bearish CVD, you go claim the low again. Right, so what are the most interesting areas to look for? Okay, so legends, I did see, okay, there are some Elliotticians, okay, that have counted the structure like I have it over here. ABC and a W, a X in a ABC, 3, that's basically your connector wave, and then you have another 3-wave structure here to the downside. I did see some other Elliotticians have counted the structure differently, but what's most important to me, they got to the same answer. Okay, if this is the low, regardless of how you counted the structure, if there's a chance that your low also ends in exactly the same way, for me, it doesn't matter how you counted the structure, okay, as long as you get to the same answer. Okay, maybe you were also one of those kids in the class where you got marked down points. Do you guys remember in school, okay, you get a mathematical question, you know the answer, you don't know how you got to the answer, but you know what the answer is, right? It's the answer that's important. So if this was a teacher marking you on how you got to the answer, most probably there's a couple of issues within this structure, so I will get marked down. But did I get to the answer? Yes, I got to the answer. Right, okay, cool. Now I'm gonna dive into this little local structure in a moment, legends. Let me just take the time flip out here. Just hide that ever so slightly. That butterfly, guys. Look at how beautifully this butterfly has played out so far. Okay, the TP1 has already played out. Okay, when you take a fifth from C to D, TP1, beautiful TP1 over here. We even tapped the 786. Okay, that's another TP area. But this is TP2 and that is TP3. Okay, so there's a chance that it's going to smash those levels. Definitely a chance that this little butterfly is going to play out to perfection. Okay, something that we spoke about earlier on this week. Right, so let me switch this off. There's still the big harmonic that I'm keeping an eye on. I'll go through that now. And then there's this scenario over here where I told everyone the scenario is starting to carry lower probability for me. Okay, so let's just quickly do a recap on this scenario. Is where you've basically formed an ABC and a W. It could also be a WXY Again, how did you get to the answer? Doesn't matter. This is a W. Whether it's an ABC, whether it's a WXY, doesn't really matter to me. They both make sense. It gets to the same answer over here. Then you have formed an A, B, C, D, E in your X wave, where your E actually did not tap the trend, which is perfectly fine as long as it's make a lower high than C. Perfectly fine. Then we got the A to the downside, because now you want to create your Y wave in a zigzag. Okay, A, B, C. Can you guys see zigzag? If I say zigzag, A, B, C, zigzag, zigzag. Okay, ABC. You want to basically form it in an ABC, but there's a problem. There's a little bit of a problema over here, is because a B wave has to be a 3-wave structure. Okay, and I could be wrong here, legends. I just have to show you what I see here on the chart. Well, this to me looks like a 5-wave structure. A B wave is not allowed to be a 5-wave structure. Okay, this looks nice 3-wavy. This looks like a beautiful 3-wave structure. This looks like a beautiful 3-wave structure. But this, that looks like a 5-wave structure. So, not a beautiful B wave, which tells me that the probabilities for this scenario is starting to go down. Okay, right? It is beautiful that it claimed the liquidity below the low, okay, because that's what you want to see in a Y wave, a flat. You grab the liquidity below, you grab the liquidity above, and then you fall back down to the downside to complete your Y wave. So, but your B has to be a 3-wave structure, unless by some miracle, okay, if I take a trend-based fib and mark out, I want to mark out the maximum target for the B for this B wave. So maybe it's not finished, okay? Maybe it's still going to form a 3-wave structure. So let's quickly go and calculate that. Right? You take your fib from the high to the low of A, you drag it across, and you reverse it to the upside. I want to take a box, put it in the flat targets. Right? There's your flat targets. It's not allowed to tap the 1.618. Not allowed to. Okay, it doesn't invalidate it, but it significantly lowers the probabilities. Right, so this is where you want to reject. And then what you want to form over here is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 3-wave corrective structure, and then another 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, without tapping the 1.618. Then there's a chance that I will move the B over there, okay? Because now you have a 3-wave structure. You have a 5, 3, 5. You have A, B, C. Okay, A wave, 5 waves. B wave, 3 waves. C wave, 5 waves. So A, B, C inside of this larger B wave to the upside. Okay. Right, so there's a chance, legends. I just don't like how the structure started. So the scenario has not been invalidated. All it could mean is that this little choppiness that we are experiencing at the moment is still going to last a little while longer. Maybe you get the choppiness here to the downside, you get your 5 waves here to the upside, it rejects again, and it goes down for the C wave over here. So it all is just going to take a lot more time, and you still form a 3-wave structure. Reject here to the downside, and then the bull market continues. Okay. Right, but based on these scenarios, well, there's some interesting levels that I'm keeping an eye on, okay? Can you guys see? Some very interesting levels that I'm keeping an eye on. But I am now first looking for the long, because this is a 5-wave structure, or there's a high probability that this is a 5-wave structure. I'm looking for a bounce to play this move up again, because you need a connector wave. After a 5-wave structure, you need a connector wave and another wave to the upside to form your zigzag. It's either going to explode and the correction is done and the scenario gets invalidated and we continue with the bull market, or it's going to reject inside of this zone before it taps the 1.618. So this becomes profit taking areas. If I am inside of the long, this becomes profit taking areas, leaving a moonbag open for higher levels. Right. You guys can see each wave needs a connector wave. Look at this, right? You have a wave, you have a wave, you have a connector wave, and then you have another wave. Okay, and there's you'll form your zigzag. Can you guys see? So you need a wave, you need a connector wave, and you need another wave to form another zigzag. Okay, or it's going to be 4, 5. And if you have a 5-wave structure, boy oh boy, now that is bullish. Okay, right. I will go through some super chat. Let's go super chat on the live stream. Let's see. Dewald, sorry if it's a dumb question. There's no dumb questions in trading, guys. Okay, let me just put that out there. There's no dumb questions in trading. So, okay, right, let's go. But I'm just trying to get it right. Can you explain how to spot WXY waves? Is there an easy rule or trick to recognize them? I'm going to try and explain it as best as I possibly can. And since I love to do education on my channel, okay, why not? Let me try and explain it as, and thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Okay, is when you have a this is the simplest way, guys. You have a 5-wave structure to the upside. Let me switch on the lines so everyone can see. That is a impulse. You don't get more than 5 waves. It's always 5 waves. Okay, always 5 waves. Okay, if you see a 6 wave, it's most probably part of a corrective structure, but I don't want to complicate it. Then you get an ABC. A, B, C. And that is your wave. This is a wave up, this is your correction, and then you get continuation. And this is where your trend forms. You take your trend from the low to that little low over there, okay, and then you have your trend that continues momentum to the upside. This is how the structure builds itself, okay. Then you have another, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. You guys will see this will start to look very familiar because you've seen it before, okay. Then you get an A, B, C, right? Then you get another. Let me draw this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's how the structure looks. And then you have your trend that runs across. Okay, and some people will say, yeah, that was a fake out, so I'm going to connect it to this low over here. Okay, sometimes the price slices through the trend line, it gets acceptance back above, and now this is what. Let me just put it here on the 2-hour time frame because I'm running out of real estate over here. Okay. And now you guys can see, well, that is your waves here to the upside as price is building. And then all of a sudden that happens is you get this. It loses the trend and it falls down because now the entire structure is starting to correct itself. Now I can go a little bit more detail. I can say, well, that was your 1, this was your 2, that was your 3, that was your 4, that was your 5. Each structure has 5 waves inside of it. Okay. And then you have your ABC. This is the simplest way when everyone starts learning Elliott wave theory. This is what they learn. You have 5 waves up. Each wave has 5 waves inside of it, and you have an ABC down, ABC down, ABC down. Okay. But WXY, when you start asking questions about WXY, that is where it starts becoming a little bit more complex. Because inside, let's focus on this little correction over here. So let's focus on this one. Okay. And this is what a WXY is the following. So let me take this out and put a WXY there. And just try and explain the best way that I can what is a WXY. What if this was a WXY? Okay, what is the difference? Why is it not an ABC? Because a WXY is the following. W, okay, has an A, B, C. X has an A, B, C. And Y has another A, B, C. So it becomes a longer, more choppy, more confusing corrective structure. But each leg has an ABC inside of it. Where a simple corrective structure is basically, okay, and let me grab my pen. In an A wave, okay, the easiest way is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5, 3, 5. That's a ABC. In a WXY, now you can see how complex it can get. You can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Do you guys see? But in simple terms, it's basically this wave has an ABC inside of it. Usually when you have a WXY corrective structure, that is usually where you get your longer corrective structures, because they're not as simple as you can get. Let me try and do this over here. Okay, and then I'll carry on with the technical analysis. Usually they look like this. They are much longer. They take longer in time because they have ABCs inside of it. So usually when you have a nice little impulse to the upside, okay, and you formed your 5 waves, and it just takes forever for the corrective structure to come to an end, it's usually a WXY, because it's building ABCs inside of the structure. Okay, where usually you wanted your corrective structure to end over here and continue, it doesn't. It just continues sideways forever, and that's usually a WXY. So it's basically ABCs inside of a larger corrective structure. I hope that has made sense. Okay, right, so let me take this out the way and continue with the technical analysis. But no, it's not a stupid question. It's a very good question, because a lot of people struggle with it. So if I bring back what I've just taught everyone here above, okay, can you see this? You have an A, B, C in a W, okay? Now this is where it becomes complex. You can also have triangles in X's, okay? A, B, C, D, E. You have a triangle in X. Now you formed the first A, okay, for you're now busy with your Y wave. You now formed the first A. Now you need a B and you need a C. You need an A, B, C in your Y. Okay, and can you guys see how I'm analyzing the structure? Well, this structure is a 5-wave structure. B is not allowed to be a 5-wave structure, so it needs to form a 3-wave structure. Okay, reject in this box, and then the last leg to the downside has to be a 5-wave structure, because a C wave has to be a 5-wave structure. So that's also where you need to learn which structure has what type of waves inside of it. Okay, so it does become a little bit more technical. Right, Mark Dutch, welcome to the live stream, man. SGS, welcome. Sea of Blue, Mariela, welcome to the live stream. I wish I had just recorded that. Can you also see WXY inside a W? Yes, you can. You can have a WXY. So here's a perfect example, guys. Here's a perfect example. You can have a WXY inside of a W, okay? You can have a WXY inside of a W, because another way to count this is, right, let's do this. Okay, you guys have so many Elliott wave questions. Love it, love it. Okay, yeah, it looks like A, B, C. Okay, that looks like an ABC, because remember, A wave can be a 3-wave structure. That is a B because it looks like a 3-wave structure. 1, 2, 3. This looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which can be your C wave. So what does that become? That becomes, okay, let's do this. This becomes an A, B, C. That ended over here. Now guess what? What does the ABC give you? ABC gives you a W. So you have a W. You have a complex corrective structure in X, and now you formed a Y here to the downside. Okay. X waves are usually very complex structures. They don't make sense. Okay, people struggle to understand them. It's usually a very good telltale sign of an X wave. If the structure doesn't make sense, it's usually an X wave. Okay, and then you have this zigzag to the downside, A, B, C to complete your Y wave. And guess what? Now you have a WXY inside a bigger W. So yes, definitely possible. Okay, right. Let's take the brushes here out the way. So now we have discussed the scenario. Okay, guys, the beauty about these scenarios, and some people sometimes make comments on the live stream or after the fact, or send me personal messages to say, Dewald, you have so many scenarios. I don't know which one is going to play out. I also don't know which one is going to play out, but each scenario has levels. And when you start combining Fibonacci levels with Elliott wave theory, which is, it's the same thing, right? You need to learn because each wave has levels that it needs to respect. So based on each scenario, I know where to look for longs and I know where to look for shorts. Okay, and I also know which level will invalidate the scenario so that I don't have to look at that scenario anymore. And then maybe I'm left with only 1 or 2 scenarios. And then I know, okay, now it's going to become interesting. If I only have 2 scenarios left, a bullish and a bearish case scenario, which one is going to get invalidated first? And as soon as one of the scenarios gets invalidated, I will go aggressive in that one direction. Okay, so Elliott wave theory does give you directional bias. It's also the only theory that we have that can predict where price can go. It's the only prediction tool that we have is Elliott wave theory. Right. Now, that one got invalidated. Okay, so I'm going to delete it. Not even going to talk about it. Support resistances. Okay, that one got invalidated. Do you guys remember this scenario? Got invalidated, and there's good reason. Okay, and this is why I like to talk about high probable scenarios and low probable scenarios. Okay, the reason I can tell you guys now, the reason this scenario got invalidated is because B did not tap a flat target. Okay, so you have an ABC. Sorry. You have an ABC and an A. ABC or a WXY. You can have a WXY and an A as well. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how you count it. The end result is the same. Then you have a 3-wave B wave. And there are 2 mistakes. There's 2 mistakes with the scenario. And can you guys see, although the scenario was not invalidated, when I say something carries low probabilities, I'm trying to figure out which scenario has the least amount of mistakes. This scenario, before it got invalidated over here, had 2 mistakes. But the mistakes was not big enough to invalidate the scenario. Okay, so, here's some more rules. You take a fib from the high to the low of A. And now I'm trying to see, well, where did that B wave reject? Okay, so, and guys, I know this gets confusing, but if you want to get better at trading, and you want to up your game, these are some of the things you have to learn. And I'm trying to explain it in a way that makes sense. Okay, so that you don't have to go and read through a 1,000-page document and that doesn't make sense. You can just keep on following me, and after a while, the pennies will start to drop. Okay, for a 5-wave C, you need a 5-wave A. Unless the B taps a flat target. You hear what I'm saying? If this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that little pivot did not go into the territory, then it's a valid 5-wave structure, which means that this scenario would have carried higher probability. I have gone through many live streams where I've explained to everyone why this is not a goddamn 5-wave structure. I've done it so many times. This is a 3-wave structure. Doesn't matter how you count it, it's a 3-wave structure. So because the A wave is a 3-wave structure, in order to get 5 waves down in a C wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your B wave has to tap a flat target, and your minimum flat target is the 0.9 fib extension of Fibonacci level. So I go switch this one off, I put on the 9, and then I look at it and I say, okay, I can count a 3-wave A. In order for a C wave to have 5 waves, this B wave has to tap the 0.9, and it didn't. So that's the first mistake. Mistake number 1 is it did not tap a flat target because this is a 3-wave A. Mistake number 2, time. I love to look at time. How from the beginning of A to the end of A, where did B finish? The high was made before the 0.382. At least you want your B wave also to finish after the 0.382. Hope that makes sense. So mistake number 2. Right, mistake number 3, you could argue, mistake number 3 is this is not a 5-wave structure. It's a 3-wave structure. And right, so and then and I wasn't surprised because the scenario started invalidating itself. Okay, you did not tap the flat, which means you cannot have a 5-wave structure to the downside in a C wave. And I had my invalidation over here while price was trading over here. I had the invalidation, and I said, I discussed the probability. I showed the mistakes to everyone, and I said the scenario carries low probability because I saw all over social media people had this contracting diagonal to the downside, exactly the way that I have it over here. Everyone was expecting this low to be claimed again without taking this high. Okay, so you basically want to roll over. You want to create a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Definitely, if we did reject here and we did fall to the downside, I was ready for this long. I was ready. Okay, I had my levels marked out because I know exactly where that 5th wave needs to end. Fibonacci levels, I knew exactly. And this was the invalidation for the scenario. So we hit the invalidation, which now invalidated this entire scenario. But you guys can see, based on the mistakes, B wave too short in time compared to the A wave. Didn't hit a flat target. This is not a 5-wave structure to the downside. Scenario carries low probability. And guess what happened? It invalidated itself. So sometimes it's nice to play on the side of probabilities. And this is why I always talk about probabilities inside of the live stream. The scenario has high probability. The scenario has low probability. Okay, and then obviously if a scenario has been invalidated, I won't even talk about it. Okay, and there has been many times where I see a scenario that carries such low probability, I won't even talk about it. Right, so now I'm going to talk about another scenario. Okay, here we go, guys, here we go. Right, it's this, no, it's not this one. And in actual fact, I want to keep this scenario. I'm keeping this scenario because I want to do some education on that scenario inside of my trading course. Okay, so now, where's my flat? Here we go. Right, this scenario is still very much in play. Okay, here's now another scenario we need to keep an eye on. Still an A wave, you still have an A wave, but now you are forming a much bigger B wave in a, okay, you have your A that ended over here, you have an A, B, and now you're forming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside to go and complete your B wave. And then, oh, bull market is back. Everyone starts longing with everything they have, you fall down in a C wave. Okay, you could create a running flat, which means that the C does not claim the low of A, which is rare. Okay, if the C does not claim the low of A, it is a rare, which is what we refer to as a running flat. Most commonly, if you have a B that claims the high, you have a C that claims the low over there. Right, so this is your most common structure. ABC flat. And a flat basically means you take the high, you take the lows, you reset the market, you grab all of the short liquidity, short squeeze, you grab all of the long liquidity, it resets the market, and then it continues to the upside. So this scenario has not been invalidated, and for now this scenario actually carries higher probability than the WXY that I've just shown you. Okay, this one. But it's I think the beauty about these two scenario, guys, is that they have the same outcome. The answer is almost exactly the same, because look at the outcome over here. Okay, so let's say the scenario invalidates itself. Price shoots past the box. It shoots past the box and it invalidates itself, and it still falls down. Okay, some people are going to say, yes, my scenario played out. And I'm going to say, yes, the scenario did play out, but you just had the wrong count. But you got to the same answer. So if I overlay both scenarios, okay, if you have the WXY, okay, your WX, and now you're forming your Y, but you basically invalidated your B wave for the Y, so which means the structure actually gets invalidated, but you still made the low, you get to the same answer. Okay. Right. Anyways, legends, let's keep it now a little bit more interesting. So here is still a bearish case scenario that could play out where you can start. Now, this structure looks way more interesting because you've already completed a 3-wave in a A, a 3-wave in a B, and now you're going up in a 5-wave structure to complete your C. Now, this looks way more interesting to me because of this 5-wave structure locally that we have formed over here. Because a C wave has to have a 5-wave structure. So this is why this is now becoming very interesting. So let's switch off the scenario and now focus on this little structure that we have formed over here. Okay. And before I continue, remember, legends, for the best deals on these exchanges, Bluffin has got that wow. The wow trading the trading competition, War of the Whales. You register by selecting the second link here on Bluffin. You can either register, sign up, okay, get 20% cash back for the money that you deposit in your features account, and then you can select the second link. You'll be part of the Bitcoin Census team, myself and Andy's team, and we will trade together. There's still 18 days left. The competition has just started. 18 days left. Where we will compete for the highest amount of volume moved, the better P&L, whatever there's a Cybertruck up for grabs. Okay, I don't think the whale is up for grabs unless you have a big swimming pool. And right, legends, but this is where you register for the competition. And weeks, also 20% cash back on the money that you deposit in your features account, 25% discount on your trading fee, and you automatically, by signing up with this link and depositing some cash, any amount of cash into your features account, you will automatically be classified as a VIP 1. You will get VIP 1 status, and you'll also get all the benefits that's related to being a VIP 1. So for this community only. Right, guys, also BTCC up to $10,000 up for grabs, and Femix still has that you sign up, you get $150 for free that gets airdropped into your account to trade with. So guys, I've got options here, right? You need to go and pick which one works for me, which one, works the best for me. All of these exchanges only need an email and a password, or a cell phone number and a password. Right, let's get back now into the technical analysis. Okay. Regardless of the structures, legends, regardless of the structures that I've just gone through, I have longing zones and I have shorting zones. So from a simplicity perspective, I like to take a fib, okay, from the low to the high. You take a Fibonacci from the low to the high. Now this 0.382 looks very interesting. So purely from a price action perspective, the reason the 0.382 looks interesting is because this is where the chop starts. This is where the chop starts. And below all of these lows is liquidity. And I can see it on the liquidity heat map. Right, can you guys see over here? Below all of those lows is a bunch of liquidity that's built up over there. And you might say, but Dewald, there's more liquidity to the upside. The market makers, if this is not enough, they might send price down first for more liquidity to build up before they go and grab it. Maybe it's not enough, so they're first going to dip into this pool before they dip into this pool. We've seen that play out many times where price just doesn't go to the liquidity pool because it means that market makers still want to build up the liquidity. It's not enough just as yet. Okay, so basically that liquidity, I put myself back here, is build up all the way to 100, 104, 103. But this entire zone is where the liquidity lies. Okay, so which brings me to the first area that I'm paying attention to, the 0.382, and you also have a range low. That's what I refer to as the range low. When you have a pump to the upside, that very first low, the lowest point that you make before you get the movement back to the upside, is what I refer to as the range low. Usually, in most instances, when price gets to that level, you at least get a bounce. It doesn't have to go and claim the high. It can maybe continue the corrective structure in a three-wave structure, but I can take advantage of that little bounce from a day trading perspective. Depending on what I see over here, I can get into a trade. I can take profits when it hits resistance, and Okay, either leave a moonbag open or consider a short, depending on berry CVD. But this is the first bouncing zone that I see here, range low. Okay. Right, then obviously, guys, 50% doesn't have much going on. It's a little bit, the 50% is in the little bit in the, by itself. Like, there's not price action here inside of this structure. There's not really price action that's supporting the 50%, which is why the 618 looks the best. Okay, then and then, you know, purely from looking at this structure, this is how simple you can keep it, guys. This is how simple you can keep it. You can look at this structure, look at your Fibonacci levels and say, well, now that looks interesting. That SFP from that pivot together with a 0.382 looks interesting. There's not much going on here, so maybe I'm not going to pay attention to the 50%, but there is highs and a consolidation area at the 0.618. So there's two very important levels that I'm going to be paying attention to. Hence, I have my alarm over here. Can you guys see my alarm over there? This is why I have an alarm. I want my alarm to go off before we hit that level so that I can pay attention. It's not to say that I'm definitely going to long that zone. It's not to say. It's for me to be sitting in front of my computer, okay, so that I can make a trading decision. The best way for me to get into a trade is that if my alarm goes off over here, I pay attention and it dips below and it gets acceptance back above. That is interesting to me. That is where I long. I know where to put my stop loss and I know where to take profits. Okay, I'm not interested in playing this up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not worth my time. I used to do it, but it's not worth my time anymore. I want to play, even this move here for me is way more significant than playing these small little moves up and down, up and down. Okay, that to me will be a beautiful day trade. Even if it rejects and it continues to the downside, I want to take advantage of that move because it has the chance that it could be the low. Okay. You have a 5-wave up, you have a low, minimum retracement target, and then you bounce. So definitely a zone that I'm going to be paying attention to. Right, also, when I start zooming out, okay, I switch on my VRVP just to look at where the most amount of volume was traded during this entire range. I switch on my support and resistances. You know, this is where I now take it a step further. You can see that the point of control, can you see the red line that's running here? The red line. So during this entire range, this is where the most amount of volume was traded in confluence with a 0.382. So now I'm starting to build other areas of confluence at the level that I'm watching, using higher time frames. So I can see that this level is supported by the point of control of the entire range. A little bit further down, you have this little wick that just stands by itself, which is in confluence with the 50%. So there is support there. I just don't like it. Depending on how price reacts at that level, I'll see. Okay, and then you have the 618, and I like the lows over here. 618, all of these lows. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, also with a nice little high volume node that's sticking out over there. So this is where I'm looking for longs, guys, just to keep it simple. I'm looking for longs, and because this is a 5-wave structure here to the upside, there's a good chance that it's going to find support and continue back to the upside. Okay, if I'm wrong, then I want to be wrong and get stopped out of break even. Right. Yeah. Let me just leave it at that. Let me go through some more comments. Because, guys, yeah, this is all I see from a longing perspective. And now I'm going to discuss the shorting opportunities. Okay? Shorting opportunities, which I'll discuss now. This box is very interesting. Right, so let me go through some comments and we can continue with the shorting opportunities. I just want to see what is the time. Yeah, I still have a couple of minutes and then I need to go. Subscribe, smash the like button. It's free. Touch, no KYC required, no additional tariffs yet. Mark Dutch, absolute legend, one of the best mods out there, right? Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate you, Mark Dutch. Dewald Kut, 108300 be end of wave 3, and now it's in a wave 4. 108. No. Okay. I'll tell you, it's not a hardcore no. Okay, but let me show you what I'm seeing on the structure. I have seen people count it like this. I have seen it. Okay, I can be wrong, guys. I'm just trading probabilities. So if something plays out that I'm not favoring, it just means it went against my probabilities, and it's not a structure that I see often. I rather like to put my bets on a structure that has a 70% probability. And then for the 30% that I'm wrong, I don't mind getting stopped out. It's as simple as that. So I did see that there's some people counting the structure like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did see that. Okay, so this is basically what you mean. Or 3 is up here. There's a problem. Okay, there's a little bit of a problem. Because if you zoom into structure 3, you need to count 5 waves to the upside. Okay, so you need to count here somewhere. So maybe this is 1. Maybe this is 2. And then you have 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's go and figure out, do I still have that over here? I just want to see if I still have it here. There we go. Right, so that's basically the structure that you're looking for, but that is not your number 3. Okay, so let me take this out the way. That's basically what you're looking for, and then inside of this structure, you're looking for, guys, so I'm brainstorming this now together with you. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, each side of your third wave. Let me take that out the way. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so I mean, you have a long one wave. Okay, so if this is your wave 1, so let's do this. So okay. And then you have 2 over here. Sorry guys, you know, I like to do this before the stream so that I don't struggle here during the stream. I'm just trying to really see if this makes sense, okay? Because what I'm trying to figure out here, Legends, is I'm concerned about wave 2 and 4. That's basically what I'm trying to get to. I'm really concerned about wave 2 and 4. So from a timing perspective, I want to see how long did it take wave 2 to form. So from the high to the low. Okay, and I'm counting that as a WXY. Now I want to see that from this high, now I mean it's at the 2 extension, so there's a probability. There is a probability. I just want to take that out the way. Okay, so you basically have a 1 in a contract. You have a contracting diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So you basically have a contracting diagonal inside of your wave 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, guys. The structure just looks completely out of whack for me. Okay, it just looks completely out of whack. It just, you know, Elliott wave theory also talks about look and feel of a structure. It just makes way more sense for me. Okay, so let's take this out the way. Rather than trying to figure out. Now this makes way more sense to me. Okay, if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason the structure makes more sense to me is because of this. You have a 2 over there and you have a 4 over there. That's more or less the same time. They took the same time to develop. And then you have your 5 in a contracting diagonal. Okay, but, okay, yes, the but. Yes, the but. It doesn't matter. We are both right, okay? Maybe I should have led with that. Whether you're counting this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whether you are counting this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the end result is the same, okay? Because after you have a wave to the upside, I'm now looking for the retracement. I'm potentially looking at the end of the structure, you looking at the fourth wave, but we're both expecting a bounce, a higher low, and we are both expecting price to still move up. So we are both expecting the exact same structure regardless of how we count it. That's the beauty about sometimes I don't get harped on how you count the structure. If the end result is the same, so be it. As long as you get to the same end result. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm trying to point out over here is if my structure has ended over here and I'm looking for an ABC and then I'm looking for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you are basically looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking at the exact same targets. We're looking for a bounce and we're looking to take profits. So it doesn't matter how you count it. Okay, after this high, this is where it's going to become interesting. Because now, based on how you've counted it, if this is your 5 that's going to end over here, okay, you then expect a larger corrective structure and then continuation. Okay, based on how I've counted it, you could have an ABC. So this is where it's going to be. This could be your A, this is your B, and this is your C. And then after this, you could take the low again. Right, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the structure finishes over here. Because if it does this and this, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which reduces the probabilities of taking that low. You're going to form another high and continue momentum to the upside. I hope I have made sense. I almost confused myself over there, but I hope it made sense. Okay, whether you count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whether you count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm looking for an ABC. You are looking for a 4. I'm looking for the highs to be claimed again. You're also looking for the highs to be claimed again in a 5th wave. I'm looking for it in a C wave or in a 5 wave structure. We'll see how we get there. Right, to the upside. Let me quickly get to that, to the upside. Okay, just going to keep it very simple over here. Let's take all of this out the way. Let's zoom back into the 1 hour time frame. Now I'm just going to keep it very, very, very simple, legends. Just looking at this structure. Okay, if I take a fib from the high to the low, you can see where price got rejected. Can you see where price got rejected? At the 786. Failed to close any high time frame candles above the 786, and this is where it started to roll over. I can tell you guys now, this was not an easy short because of the choppiness, up and down, up and down. So I mean, yeah, on the smaller time frames, this was really difficult to get into the short because you were just like, okay, does it want to continue? Okay, because look at this, it was just chopping up here, chopping. It gets to the 786, it rejects. So it's almost like, you know, maybe it's just going to continue chopping here to the upside, but then it broke the trend. Okay, I had a little trend over there and it broke the trend. So that was the first sign of weakness. It lost the trend. It lost the momentum. So price is now rolling over. And now also between these little bounces, I'm spotting berry CVD building up. So there's a chance that the correction could continue a little bit here to the downside. So from a Fibonacci perspective to the upside, if price starts, it stops here and it goes up and it makes another leg to the upside, 0.88. Inside of that box, the B flat box that I've highlighted. Okay, so that is the area that I will be paying attention to. Also, just go back here onto the 1 hour time frame. This is now where I marked out the levels, point of controls. Okay, I want to see how price is going to react at these point of controls. It also aligns with my support and resistance boxes there to the upside, the high volume nodes. So 786, okay, got a rejection at resistance. Yeah, I had to have the level switched off now, but here's a point of control. Very interesting point of control at a very high resistance node. So that high looks beautiful for a swing failure pattern. Okay, for now, it looks like the probabilities are higher to move down first. We need to move down first before we move up. But I'm just saying, guys, you don't know. The market is here to surprise us. If it stops where it is right now, it just, okay, and it punches and it makes another leg to the upside. This is where I'm paying attention for short. This is where I'm paying attention for short. And this is why I have my alarms set. And this is why I'm also, when I opened up the live stream, I told everyone I'm not in any trade on Bitcoin at the moment. My alarm has not gone off. My alarms has not gone off. So from a shorting and a longing perspective, I don't do anything until my alarms go off. Those are the two trades that I'm looking for. And until my alarms go off, no trading for me. Right, just no trading. Okay. Can we just pump from here because we have a lot of liquidity up and also a lot of people are waiting for correction to buy long. Chris, I mean, you know, and this is where things become a little bit interesting for me, is that I think we're going to go down first before we go up because I don't think there's enough liquidity to the upside. And the reason I say that is because when you look at the structure, let's go back here onto the 15-minute time frame. Let's just clean up the chart. Okay, take this flip out the way. When I look at the structure, whether this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whether this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that ended over here, when I look at the structure, it's not time for the correction to be done. Okay, so from the low, okay, now I'm speculating on this being the fifth wave, okay, but from the low to the high, it's not time. So if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this low was made before the 0.382, which significantly reduces the probabilities that this is the low. So you could still form a flat, and this is why I have my alarms above. And this is why I'm saying you can still get another leg to the upside. Definitely a possibility where you're basically forming a ABC flat. This is your A, you go up for a B, and you come down for a C. Part of the corrective structure, and this is why I have my alarms set over here, because you can form an ABC flat where this is the high of the structure and your low, this is all part of your corrective structure, is made after the 0.382, preferably here between the 1-to-1 extension and the 0.618. So definitely it can be grabbed, but it could also be an instance of it's not enough liquidity, so the market makers are not going to create a flat. They're just going to do an A, B, C. Build up more liquidity, make the market bearish. What do people do when they bearish? They short. Where do people put their stop losses? Above the high. Okay, so maybe there's not enough liquidity. And I can guarantee you now, if price had to fall down here, you're going to see how that liquidity pool increases. Okay, because at the moment, that liquidity pool is sitting at 34 million. It's not a lot, guys. 34 million in liquidations. Maybe they want 100 million. Maybe they want 200 million. Okay, maybe it's not enough. Right, if you say Elliott Wave isn't a solid strategy, then you're wrong. Yes, Mark, I agree. Okay, guys, this is how I felt when I started studying Elliott Waves for the first time. It's a BS. Doesn't make any sense. I got so frustrated. I gave up a couple of times. Stuff Elliott Wave Theory. Who in their right mind wants to know what Elliott Wave Theory is about? But then there's a turning point where, because I know Elliott Wave Theory, I can see a structure and I know whether I should be looking for longs or whether I should be looking for shorts. And if I didn't know Elliott Wave Theory, I would have always wondered, does this structure, should I be looking for longs or should I be looking for shorts? Where's the highest probability? Is there a higher chance to make a higher low and continue, or is there a higher chance to take this low? Because I know Elliott Wave Theory, I have directional bias. So a longing opportunity to me becomes way more interesting. Okay, so once those pennies starts dropping and you grasp the concepts, guys, the reason a lot of people say Elliott Wave Theory is a bunch of BS is because it's the most difficult strategy to get under the belt. People give up. They don't want to put in the hard work. They don't want to go and read and study and make notes. It is hard. It's difficult. Okay? And it's easier for someone to say it's shit because they're too lazy to go and study it, or they don't understand it. Right. Mark, spot on, man. Spot on. I know that you're a moderator there on Koens's channel as well, and I'm sure he gets a lot of hate from people also saying Elliott wave theory is a bunch of BS. But I know that Mr. Koens is a very successful trader using only Elliott wave theory together with support and resistance. Okay, because it gives you directional bias. Right. Yes sir, welcome. I believe in a 1112 because of that. Right, legends, thank you so much. I need to go. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Remember to smash up that like button. Thanks Mark Dutch, all the moderators, Jack, Stefan1, everyone here for joining me in the live stream. And have yourselves an amazing weekend. Try and take off from the chart tomorrow. Okay, take a break tomorrow, at least from the chart. You're going to see it's going to be choppy up and down tomorrow, very sideways. And we could all take it again seriously on Sunday and Monday. Have yourselves a great weekend. Until the next one, cheers for now.